How do you like our sign?
Yeah.
Very nice.
My name is David Daly, and I represent the Township of Greenbush on the Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority Board of Directors. This is a regional governmental agency set up during the closure of the Air Force Base. It consists of one member each from Oscoda, AuSable, and Greenbush Townships, a member at large from Iosco and Alcona counties, and a county representative from Alcona and Iosco's Board of Commissioners. I will be your moderator for today's information meeting. The results of the selection process on the Michigan Launch Initiative. And guess what? We're it. I have some housekeeping items. I have some housekeeping items. Every time I say housekeeping, I'm kind of allergic to that, so I have to mind the speaker. If you have any questions that were not answered during our panel's presentations, please raise your hand and we will get you a sheet or comment card, and they will bring it up and I will get it answered by the available personnel. And if we can't answer it now, we'll get that answer back to you as soon as possible. With that said, I'm going to introduce in no particular order our panel, and we have some people on the front. They will stand and turn to face the audience. I would hope they would stand and turn to face the audience when their name is given. Representative Sue Aller, our state representative. Gary Kellen, our airport manager. He does an outstanding job, especially in grant writing, which funds a large portion of our operating funds, without which we cannot keep our airport viable. He has been awarded the Airport Manager of the Year by the State of Michigan Association of Airport Executives. So he does a great job. I can't. Don Nolan, Director of Heavy Aircraft Maintenance for Flood Air. John Scanlon, owner and president of Phoenix Deposits and Phoenix Aviation Services, RFPA. Jeremy Rogers, standing in for our Senator Jim Thomas. Aaron Weed, Supervisor of Oscoda Township. Gary Keller, standing in for Senator Gary Peters. Mike Munson, member at large for Iosco County and executive committee member. Mary Jo Simotis, she's the alternate member for the AuSable Township and is here for Kevin Bellevue. Craig Johnston is standing in for Representative of the Alcona Board of Commissioners for Kevin Boyette, who cannot be here today, who is also the chairman of the board and on the executive committee. Rob Ewell, who's a member of Iosco County Board of Commissioners, appointed to the airport board. Dave Schaefer, the Oscoda Township Superintendent. Todd Dickerson, Oscoda Township's new Economic Improvement Director. Another one I can't say too much about, Jack Brown, Assistant Airport Director. He also does an outstanding job in this position, along with creating new and innovative ways to keep our airport running in high gear. I can give you an example. We changed a lawnmower a zero-turn lawnmower into a crack filler that saves all kinds of time, even use the exhaust to make sure that the product stays heated. It comes up with some great ideas, and the best one's yet to come, but we can't announce it yet. Missing is John Swice, who is a member at large for Nakona County, but also the vice chair and member of our executive board. Colonel J.R. Alexander from the Air National Guard. And last and certainly not least, is this man right here, the man who is most responsible for the Michigan Launch Initiative, President of MAMA, the Michigan Aerospace Manufacturing Association. Give you Gavin Brown. He's going to be our first speaker today.
Very kind. I'd like, before I get started today, to ask those who were here in 1993 when the base closed down, could you just raise your hand for me? And I look around the room and I see many people whose lives were here in 1993 and saw this town go through transformation. The reason I ask is because now, here we are in 2020, and we're working toward bringing back those days when you saw the vibrancy and the excitement in this town. Part of our mission, and as I will explain what we've done and go through helping you understand what we're doing, but part of this primarily resolves around the people. And so you heard some people here announced today. I will tell you that I've had the pleasure in the past 13 years of when we started our Michigan Aerospace Manufacturers Association of dealing with some fine folks like John and Don. These are folks that have been in the aerospace industry working hard and diligently, not only to create value, but to continue to bring employment to your area. So I want to expressly thank them for what their years of service has done to this area. Thank you. Now, Michigan Launch Initiative. A couple of years back, when I was attending some of our satellite and other programs in DC and around the country, there was a developing, what are we going to do as we develop low Earth orbit, the LEO, and the satellites. And they were talking about Elon Musk and how he was going to change and bring in kind of a displacement to what we were doing in NASA. And as I listened, I thought we're achieving some success in bringing the commercialization, the industries, the manufacturers together. What opportunity does this present? And how can that be reflected in what we have in assets here in Michigan? So as we went forward, we progressed in putting together a whole program on how to bring Michigan forward into the society, probably developing space program. So we got focused, we put together a program, we approached then Governor Snyder, and we were then appropriated $2 million. Upon some work with Governor Whitmer, it came back. And we have gone forward with our timetable that was to deliver originally in June of this year for the beginning of the rankings of first the horizontal. So we're ahead of schedule, I want you to know that. And we're going to continue to work at the speed of business. The reason I bring this up is this is a commercial opportunity, but it's also a hybrid. It's going to interconnect government with the commercial entities to bring a value to the space industry that it hasn't been there in the past. So we look forward not only working to get this to go forward, but the only way we're going to be able to do it is with the people, the talent, and the mindset of innovation and manufacturing. I don't think anywhere else on this earth that you can find in this, other than the state of Michigan. So what we're doing is taking that asset base and diversifying it into this industry. Because when you go around the country right now, California, Florida, Alabama, other parts, Texas, they're known as space states. It's our time. But to do that, we have a lot of work ahead of us. So in the past 8 months, we've been doing what we call our feasibility study. Step 1 on this is continuing. Upon that, we released the findings this Tuesday of the rankings, and Oscoda, Vertsmith, #1 for horizontal. And what does that mean? I'll take you through it, but I want you to know we still have work ahead of us. It's not complete, it's not done. In our minds, we've just begun. So we went from 8 sites down to 1, and now it's time to do more feasibility on this site here to go forward. The next steps will then also involve a licensing process with the FAA. Tonight, what I want to do is introduce you to part of what this industry is about, what it means to you, because I think from what I saw from those hands that rose, that were here in 1993, I'd just like you to see, and for those of others who joined after 1993, how many of you would like to see this town revitalized to where once again you're a vibrant city? So first, I thank you for taking time from your families, work, to be here with us tonight. We will be doing continual community engagement, to listen, to learn, to also disseminate the information as we go forward, so that you know what we're doing. Because this is going to be a community effort, it's going to be interactive, and we look forward to hearing from you. So when we talk about the Michigan Launch Initiative, there's lots of articles you can go Google, but really what we're focused on is LEO and MEO. LEO is low Earth orbit, and MEO is mid-size Earth orbit. What that means is we're not going to be doing those large rockets that you see down at Cape Canaveral, nor are we going to do deep manned space. So when you hear of everything about Mars and the moon, those are for the Cape Canaveral folks. We're going to focus specifically on these industries in space for satellite launches, for communication systems, so that we can then take what are the assets and enter into this billion-dollar marketplace so that we can then continue to look and see if we can, how we can fit into that and grow our future together. Here's a little slide about some of the startups that you're going to hear about. I will tell you that there's about 70 launch companies today that are vying. That would probably go back down to about 7 or 8 when all is said and done. A good mixture of horizontal and vertical. We're engaging those companies to do kind of a preliminary study as to what their needs are. So when you read about this, understand right now, a lot of folks want to get into this industry. We're going to be very careful and also analyzing those companies for their viability. So when they look to utilize our ecosystem that we're going to be building out of both manufacturing, assembly, engineering, and launching, that we pick the right horse. So different than most other spaceports out there that just chose one entity, we're going to bring many customers forward because we believe that the business model of sustainability involves not just one, but many entities working together. SpaceX. How many of you have heard of our friend Elon Musk? You might like him, you might not like him, but I'll tell you what I do give him credit for. He was a disruptor. Before, NASA had everything. NASA did a good job, but NASA wasn't challenged like we have in the commercial world. So when Elon said, not only am I going to go and do this commercially and do it better than you're doing it now, I'm going to land the boosters back on Earth or in the ocean and reuse it. And I can remember when he came out and said that, they literally laughed him off the platform. Can't be done. That's just a comic book idea. And he proved him wrong. So like I say, whether you like him or not, he is out there proving that things can be done that used to be believed that couldn't be done. And so that's part of the risk-taking that we have in space. It's not a perfect technology, but we keep going at it till you get it right. And we're going to be doing things differently in the horizontal than others have. So let me ask this, I know this might be a pertinent question to all of you. How many of you would like a green spaceport that's carbon neutral as much as possible? That's what we're going to do. So if there's any question that we're bringing any environmental dangerous propellants, We're going to be using RP1, which is a derivative of kerosene, methane, and liquid oxygen, all naturally burning. That basically what gets deposited after it gets burned is steam and water. I live in northern Michigan. Not only are we leading this project, but I have to be a good steward of where I live. And so I'm not going to dedicate my life to something that's going to take away from the standard of living for my neighbors, for my family, or my friends. I'm committed to you to make sure that what we're bringing forward to you is not going to harm any of us, water, land, or air. So let me share with you the orbital attitudes when we talk about what we're doing. You may not be able to read this, but everything in the green is what we're not going to do. Everything that you see close to the Earth in blue is what we're going to pertain ourselves to. So that's Leo and Mio. And the reason being is today it's a $438 billion industry. By 2048, it's a $3.2 trillion industry. So the communication networks, the different satellites used, and someone asked me, give me an example. How many of us in the audience have a cell phone? How many of you have ever used it to help you get someplace with the navigation tool? That's a satellite. So think of it this way. That cell phone can actually be a satellite in space. That's how advanced the technologies are. The big satellites that we're used to seeing in synchronous are the ones that we're not going to be launching. Those are actually outside the realm of what we want to do. We'll leave that to the Cape Canarals and the Vandenbergs to launch. But we're going to focus on these satellites that have a high demand for commercial and DoD use. So constellations, I hear this all the time. What is a constellation? Basically with Leo and Mio, you put up these satellites. Now there's some different factors as far as the numbers. Some are saying up to 30,000 in the next 10 years. Some people are saying up to 70,000. These satellites are different in nature. Why? Because the constellation basically blankets so you can have point-to-point contact and have contiguous coverage. So what does that mean? Well, think of it this way. If you have something totally blanketed, now you can cover everything. So you hear a great deal about autonomous cars. What do these autonomous cars do? They basically, a lot of folks say drive themselves. They utilize technology that can actually communicate, not only with the sensors inside the car, but they actually then have to connect with each other. So that as they're going down the road, you're driving a computer that's connecting with all the other computers going down the road. That communications, to build that system out, is going to be a combination of ground, air, and satellites. What we do here in Michigan, what we're known for is the automotive world. But the new automotive world, and you'll hear the big three and others talk about it, they're no longer car companies. They're technology companies. And that technology will involve the ability to communicate utilizing low Earth orbit space satellites for autonomous cars. It's our belief, why would we send that technology over to Palo Alto or Silicon Valley or the other coast, Boston and those areas? I believe we have a talent here in this state so that we can build those software and hardware systems. We can do the entire ecosystem. If we do that, the automotive industry now has new legs to stand on going forward in the future. So what we look at is what brought us here was the auto industry. In combination of working with the auto industry, we can keep it here and keep growing it here. So it's not an industry of the past. Working with what we're doing and the initiatives we're putting forward, it gives us new growth, and it also gives us a new era of employment. How heavy is a satellite? If we can just go back to that. I think it's important to know, when I talk about satellites, everything from mini satellite, micro, nano, CubeSat is what we're going to be utilizing. The large, medium size, again, those payloads are large and they go into deep deeper orbit, you will not see those being launched. And the horizontal will not be launching those. So understand, if you think that we are going to duplicate and you'll see a giant ball of rocket flame coming out and watching that at night, that's not what's going to happen. Horizontal is a mothership, jet takes it up, drops off a sister ship, and it takes off. Still, you'll be able to actually view it, but in a distance. So if you have different concerns of sound and pollution and things like that close to the ground, those will be issues that we're going to examine and look at. But I want to share with you what you're going to expect and what not to expect. So when you have smaller payloads, you also have smaller propellants to actually launch from. So those deep rockets with second and third stage, they will not be being used. So again, concerns of, am I going to see booster rockets falling into the Great Lakes? Those smaller ones are single stage, a lot of them. So understand exactly what we're going to be doing so that when we discuss what the impact is, you're going to understand that that single stage in the Leo and Mio will involve better technology, newer technology, cleaner technology, but also not involve the complexities of those larger space vehicles. Now, I will tell you, there were some of us that went down as a group and viewed the latest solar orbit launch on February 9th. And it was absolutely fantastic to watch. But what I liked being there, quite frankly, is the discussion amongst the international crowd. Because what were they asking? What's Michigan? We want to understand what Michigan's looking at trying to achieve and maybe do. So we are on the map. This isn't something that's theoretical. It's something that we're doing the feasibility on to continue to move forward. The orbital physics, again, we're going to do some polar launches, which is going from north to south, not equatorial. But there's going to be some sort of deviations, about 5 to 10 degrees, depending on sun synchronous and others. Don't want to get too technical, just to help you understand there are differences. The equatorial are better fit for Vandenberg, for the folks at the Cape. We are going to be doing polar launches. And I'm going to end this because this is kind of a nice little video. Interesting how that shows something close to the water. But this is kind of the vertical too. I want you to understand the difference. When we talk about vertical, this is the vertical that will not be here, but this is good for you to understand too, the difference. The important part is to see the microsatellites. So in concluding, a couple things I want to share with you. It is our honor to be representing the state of Michigan in this great race to commercialize Leo and Mio. And when I say that, it's not commercializing business. It's taking the talents of the people and putting them to work. And that's what this is about, is the opportunities for us and for our children to go forward. We're still in the feasibility stage, looking at all the options and things to move forward. And we want to make sure that we engage the community in the great state of Michigan. But we also want to give thanks, because there's been many people that have made this happen to this day. It starts with our U.S. senators. Gary Peters, Senator Peters has been very instrumental. It's also been with our state representatives, the governor, lieutenant governor. And I don't know if you have ever heard me say this before, but I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with the knowledge of our U.S. as well as our state senators. And I give a big shout out to Senator Thomas and Representative Fowler. These folks are doing tireless work to bring these opportunities for you, and it doesn't happen without them. So we are thankful for everything they're doing. But I want to end this by saying we'll answer some questions. This is a start. Understand we look forward to continual community engagement. It's not about us standing up and telling you what we're either planning on doing or doing. It's listening to you too, and understanding that this is part of your community DNA. And if we progress to the point I'd like to see it at, it can be something very dynamic and exciting for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin, and don't go far. Most of these questions are going to be answered by you. Dr. Don Ellis asked, Vertical Launch Space Center. Realizing this may be a premature question, where are things in relation to a secondary vertical launch center, much like Cape Canaveral, with the ability to have sonic booms over water and ditch toxic solid boosters over water than land? Why would Oscoda not also be an ideal site for a vertical launch site center?
Thank you. The question is on the vertical launch. We are still doing our feasibility. That is not complete on the vertical. So I am not going to put the cart before the horse and answer questions before that information gets released. But we are examining, I believe, 7 sites. And the site here is in contention, in consideration. But those studies are on their way. And quite frankly, if I were to answer anything without the data, I'd be remiss. Let's wait till we get the final data. I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
This question is from Connie Woodley. Space, how long will it take to get this all started? I believe we've already answered that question, and 2022 is our target date. Does that answer your question completely, or would you like some further stuff on that? Connie? So I'm assuming that does answer that one. Bud Lawton, investment vehicles or opportunities for local investments. Kevin?
You're going to hear sometimes we're going to refer to this and move on to be a service to the Mid-America, but understand it's Michigan first. We don't want money going out of the state. We don't want investment from out of the state precluding investment from in-state. So we want investors and investment to benefit those in Michigan. So let's put Michigan first.
From Greg Cole, participating in the PFAS contamination cleanup. Go ahead again.
Part of the process is an environmental assessment. When we have environmental assessment, I'll be happy to answer those environmental questions. I don't have the data. I realize that there's been a situation here where you've been involved in that previous. I have not either read it or been privy to it. I'm going to depend on the information we get through our feasibility.
Does anybody else on the stand have anything they would like to say? Are there any more questions out there? Bring it up. Anybody else? Just raise your hand. I'm going to get you those right now. Sharon Whittaker, what is the percentage of pollution during a launch?
Very good question. A lot of the other space entities out there have not done environmental studies. They're starting to. Ours is going to be comparable on a carbon evaluation. so that you'll be able to understand it, not in some high technical term that you don't. We're going to equate it to the carbon footprint that, for instance, aerospace has done. So it's tangible and it's understood, but we haven't done the feasibility of that yet because you do that with the customers that will be here, with the type of vehicle and the payload. But we're going to provide that. We're going to be very proactive. As I said, as stewards, we want this to be something beneficial. It's going to be a green spaceport. And we're going to be doing certain things that others aren't to take our carbon footprint as low as possible, as carbon neutral as possible.
Jason Baxter, what is the biggest obstacle to getting this implemented? And what could maybe clarify the process? Maybe that's what it says.
I would say our biggest obstacle is ourselves. And what I mean by that is we're going to work at the speed of business. And doing such, we have to understand that business operates differently sometimes than committees that evaluate. We're going to put safety first, don't misunderstand. But we are going to work at the speed of business to deliver at the speed of business. Being a hybrid by listening and incorporating public opinion in committees. These fine folks that you have in front of you that represent you, we'll be working with them and listening with them. But understand, we'll be working aggressively. Why? Because we believe in doing so will meet the market needs.
Elena Fitzgerald. How many other states are being considered? Which are they, and what are our chances?
I would say there's probably every single state in the union is going to want to be in the space business because it's a growth industry. So to let you know, I would say there's 4 active launch sites. There's Vandenberg out in California, Kodiak up in Alaska, Wallops in Virginia, and Cape Canaveral in Florida. And I want to answer this too. What are our chances? Our chances are very good. We're still doing the feasibility. But our chances also are dependent upon you and I. How much do we want this? How much do we see opportunity for the state of Michigan in the space business? And if we see this as an opportunity for all of us, we can make it work. There's a lot of work to do in front of us. There's a lot of work first in the feasibility that remains to be done. And then the hard work of going through the licensing and the value of what we're doing forward. So I don't look at others as being competition. I look at it as who are we and what value do we bring to the table? And that's what we always have to be thinking about. If we bring the largest value to the industry, then industry makes the choice to build with us.
Are there any other questions? A couple, okay. Don't be shy, guys. You'll never get me up here to shoot again. Terry Hendricks, is there a website we can log into that covers this?
I'm going to direct you to ours. It's Michman, michman.org. We post the activities we're doing. You'll see everything there. And I encourage you, if I have not answered your question today, or if you have a question subsequent to this, feel free to reach out to me. All of the fine folks here know how to reach me. I want to make sure I'm accessible to your questions.
And we also had a meeting today with at the Airport Authority. We are going to set up our own website also pretty soon. Jim Beyer, what is the shelf life of these on elevation satellites? Do you have counts of their re-entry locations? This is a good one. This is great. Go ahead.
Jim, the coordinates and the windows of projection and trajection are being studied as we talk. That's part of the ongoing feasibility. Now that we have a single site, we can focus on that. And those feasibility analyses are now being engaged site-specific to Wordsmith. I will tell you that I think the elevation of satellites, Leo and Mio, is not the upper stages of, like we saw on that one slide, it's blue. It's up to about 250 miles, but that, you're going to see a difference. Some people are going to launch into 120 mile, 150 mile, depending on what they want. The good part about this, Leo allows you to launch, and after 4 or 5 years, when that satellite loses its power, you can then relaunch. So what we want to be is that opportunity to be the quick launch to reestablish the satellites and actually run their lifespan and out. The difference being is those deep space runs that cost 80 to 100 million just to launch, they sometimes have old technology after 5 years. And all of a sudden that large investment becomes obsolete. In the LEO and MEO market, you can launch new technology at a relatively fraction of the cost. And this is what's so attractive to the commercial world.
Cheryl Kincaid, oversight with local groups, also training for Oscoda kids and employment. I'd like to take this one. Senator Thomas has been working with Coletta, and they were able to get their new apprentice program in, and it's been working great. Both of those individuals worked tirelessly and did a lot of stuff. But the new organizations coming in here, we got a lot more money for the STEM process and then education. And I was going to say this to the end because it's such a great thing coming with space. I need you all, when you go home, to look up higherorbits.com and what their initiative is in challenging the students coming up. They actually have a challenge that they make a project in their classrooms. In the winner of this challenge, their project goes to space and it's streamed live back to their classmates. And the energy that puts in the school system, you just can't believe it until you see it. So I want you all again to go to higherorbits.com and look at that. For the oversight groups, back to you, Gavin.
When we talk about the oversight, I look at that as how do we work by engaging the community. So we're going to be very active in that. So when I talk about oversight, some people think of that as a counter or providing the potential of we don't like this, we want to voice our opinion. I look at it a different way. How do we proactively engage you to listen, to work together? Not to sit and say, this is our concerns that you didn't address, but to be proactive and listen and engage you. So that instead of an oversight group, I'd like to say community engagement.
This is from Don Turner. The scheduled starting date for new structure in place 2021, launch 2022, but I read FAA has at least 14 months for approval. Does FAA approval jive with the schedule?
Yes, it does. So that's why I talk about moving at the speed of business. So when you engage the FAA, there's a process. It's called pre-application, the application process. We are going to work with consultants that actually are full of FAA, former FAA licensed folks. So they know what to do. They know how to engage, write up the material that the FAA is looking for. I'm confident that we're hiring the right people to move it forward in the time frame I'm referring to. But it does make sure that to achieve that goal, that we work aggressively. So what you'll find is the request for information, things that we provide, are going to be in a very timely manner. We're not going to be working our temporal pace that you normally associate with government programs. this is going to be at a speed that I don't think a lot of people would ever expect a government, public entity to work at. We're going to show you that it can be done.
And Gavin's been working very hard with this, with Washington and with the FAA, and they're working good with us, trying to streamline the process. Cheryl Green, when will the feasibility study be done? That's pretty easy. Go ahead.
Cheryl, what I'm looking at is there's some more work for here to be completed. To give you a specific date, we did have a timeline of June 30th of this year. So I would say by then, we should be looking at completion of our first part of the feasibility. But the feasibility will be ongoing. It actually goes straight on through to the FAA process.
And Amber Vickers, impact of residents on base. How will sound or even site implementation affect those in close proximity? Well, actually, the sound is not going to be anything more than it is right now. It's going to be the sound of a 747 or some like aircraft taking off. It's going to go out over Lake Huron, and then it will take off from 30 to 40,000 feet and go into orbit. The implementation for site stuff probably won't affect that either, because the easiest way to get in is not through the housing area. Would be the easiest way for to get in to do any implementation work would be to come right off of F-41. So you shouldn't be affected any more than you are right now, and that's minimal. If you're thinking about the vertical launch, it's not much different either. We're talking about smaller launches, smaller rockets that have significantly less noise to it. When I saw the last one launch, that was a heavy one. Yeah, you get the rumble and the roar, but if you get online and look at the other launches, you hear it for maybe 2 minutes, and you don't get any of the sonic booms because it's not supersonic until it gets way up in the air. Does that answer your question? Anybody else?
I'd like to make a comment, if I may. How can we as individuals create a groundswell to support whoever the powers are to bring the technology here to Michigan? What do we need to do? We need a petition that everybody can sign to send to somebody that says, we support this and we want this technology here, and we'll help provide public funds to bring it here.
I want you to know these are the folks. Senator Thomas, Representative, you make sure you let them know, because we're letting the community know, but they need to hear from you. So the petition is a good idea, but let me tell you, we're carrying the message loud, but let your representatives know what you support and how much this is important to you. These are the folks, the good folks that you need to let know.
I'd just like to say that, yeah, the more we hear from individuals within the community, it's all the better to pump up not just myself and Senator Stamas, but create an enthusiasm and an excitement in Lansing and throughout the state. Just before I arrived here today, I was talking with individuals who were from the Detroit area, explained to them where I was coming, and they were telling me that they've heard about this on the Detroit stations over the last few days. So they were excited about it. And I think this groundswell of excitement has got to expand throughout the state. And the more information we can get, the better. I know that Don McMaster is sitting here with Alpena Community College. I can assure you, his mind is spinning right now with a variety of programs that he would like to get. He's looking at how it's going to benefit the kids in this area, educational opportunities, because we want to make sure that our kids are able to stay here, work in their community. So there are a lot of awesome opportunities ahead, and we all plan on staying in contact, you know, with Aaron Weed and everybody that's involved. So it's exciting to see everybody here today. Thanks.
Any other words?
I just hope all of you know and understand that we're working together. All of these people that you see is a collaborative effort. It doesn't start and stop, it continues. And please, understand that we are listening posts for your concerns. If we're successful, we do have a transforming effect, not only on our lives, but on the lives of our children in many years to come. And it would be my honor to be a part of that with you. Thank you.
I got one other question for you.
Okay.
Can you publish a list of all your websites that we can distribute throughout the community so people don't have to write it down but can actually spread the word for you?
Yes, we can do that. I don't know exactly how we can do it yet. We could probably put it on the sign at,
Well, if you can publish, you know, just a list of them, send it to me or Carrie or whatever. We'll work with the community. I represent the Alcona County Republicans, but I'm sure there's a number of groups that we can distribute that to get the word out where people can go and look at those websites.
Well, I'm sure the press is here tonight, right? Press is here, and I would think if we could put something there in the article that would reflect that.
you read my mind.
I also have a question too. I was, it brought it up when the person back there was generating excitement, and I was thinking about Phoenix Composite Solutions. We have a lot of people that are working in the aerospace industry. We built a design for our own drawings, or also to others' drawings. And the people there are really excited because we're always doing something that is leading edge technology, always looking into new things to make. And we definitely have the people there that are excited about it. We're right here in Oscoda. I know that Coletta also is in the aerospace industry. They have people too that would be excited about building parts for this sports, spaceport. And anyway, right now, for instance, we're working on flying cars. You know, that's brand new. And we did drones, brand new drones. There's so many things that we've been doing that are like that are right here in Oscoda. You don't have to go,
That
a
is-
million miles away to get somebody.
That was one of the things that was on the 51 points is why we were chosen, was the stuff that we have on site.
Right.
And I gave those same things to people when I was down in NASA. And we collaborated with each other. One of our competitors, who I don't say is a competitor anymore, were collaborating in Michigan, needed some pieces welded for titanium. He didn't have the stuff to do yet. I told him that we could get it done at Coletta for him, gave him the numbers for it. We're trying to get as much collaboration with each other and as much in Oscoda as we possibly can. When I was talking to Nikki Fox, who is, let me get this right, the heliophysics director for NASA. She is very excited with Oscoda and what can happen, and I just can't tell you how much everybody on this board, and we've been trying as hard as we can to get everybody involved in what we want to do. Nikki asked me we were in a great big meeting, and I couldn't shut up. She was asking everybody what they wanted, they wouldn't tell her. And I said, well, I know what we want. We want the horizontal launch, we want the vertical launch, we want the command center, and this gentleman here needs a hyperspeed range. It's easy. She goes, wow, okay. We're glad we have somebody that knows what they want. So anyway, we are working as hard as we can for you. And as hard as I'm working, Gavin's working 1,000 times harder. He's in DC, he's in Florida, he's all over Michigan. I don't know how he keeps his life together. It's just a dynamo. Anything else you would like to add to that? Any more questions?
I have one. Any idea of projected jobs that would be coming into the area?
Well, it depends. It depends if we get everything. And if we get everything, it would probably start with 1,200. And that's not including the infrastructure work. There's a lot of infrastructure for, if we get a satellite company that builds satellites coming in and they need a white room, or there's lots of people with lots of interest. And that's why we gotta have all your support, positively. Go talk to, get as many of you can write whoever you want to in the government and tell them how excited you are about it. But this is just, don't get as excited as I am, because this is just the feasibility stage. We gotta work towards it. But if you know somebody in government, if you know somebody in the FAA, tell them that Oscoda is the place to be. Space begins here. That's what we want to know. We want to not get as excited as I am, control your expectations, but we're going to move forward. With a team like we have here, and you as the public, I don't think we can go wrong. Anybody else? Okay, we'd like to thank Scott Moore, the superintendent of schools, Terry Allison, the high school principal, for use of this facility and their continued support of this community. They've been great. Again, in closing, we would like to thank you one and all for attending this meeting. And again, look up the Higher Orbits Challenge at higherorbits.com. It's inspiring to our children and children at heart. And it shows the direction we are heading in the future. And thank you again for coming. Good night, gentlemen.